possibly go wrong?
It's not often you get a request to review the so-called worst cartoon of all time. I guess that's because I'd have to wait a couple days later to find the new worst cartoon of all time. But I guess it's worth bringing up since most of my shorties have been highlighting good cartoons. So I guess throwing in a bad one would make sense as well, right? So to make up for that, I was told by some viewers to check out the animated pilot to the popular video game character from the 90s, Bubsy.
Like Bubsy. Okay, Booby!
Now I'm gonna set the record straight because I don't play a lot of video games. Or did I know what a Bubsy was going into this? But from what I gather, he was originally conceived as a sprite-based game for going on adventures similar to Sonic the Hedgehog or the Super Mario Bros. So despite not having heard of this character, I figured I could still watch this without any knowledge and judge the pilot for what it is. Well, let's talk about that. Bubsy is a bobcat that doesn't really have a tail for some reason, and he lives in a world with anthropomorphic animals like his sidekick, the aardvark. One day he finds out there's a scientist who develops the greatest invention in the history of the world. I'm not exaggerating that. His invention is a helmet that can transform whatever you're thinking right in front of your very eyes. Well, despite having invented the godliest device in the history of mankind, nobody wants to test it. But the evil villainess wants it for herself, and it's up to Bubsy and his friends to keep it from her. You have your typical voice actors in this like Jim Cummings, Trace McNeil, and Ron Paulson voicing the titular character. I say typical because it seems like they're not really trying to make these characters distinguishable from the rest. Just really exaggerated voices put together in a big collage of stupidity. I don't want to insult these guys since they're the best in the business. They're just not given much to work with. It's like they're all imitating Charles Adler when he does the obnoxious yelling voice in Cow and Chicken. If the pilot was supposed to introduce the world and these characters, it wasn't doing a good job at it. Bubsy isn't given anything iconic or specific like Mario or Sonic. He's just a good-natured goofball with a lisp. That's it. All he really has is that obnoxious catchphrase that he forces in almost every sentence he utters.
What could possibly go wrong? 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 What could possibly go wrong?
Oh God, shut up. I keep imagining him to sing an obnoxious musical number like in the Lorax, except I don't think the animators would have been that creative. Heck, to show you how much they're trying to force this catchphrase onto the viewer, the episode's title is that catchphrase. I didn't even mention how every scene he reminds us that he's the quote-unquote hero.
Yeah, I'm your hero, and you're my sidekick. And because I'm a hero, for crying out loud, if that's a crime, then book me. Come on, Arnold, let's be heroes and save the day.
Look, I get it. You're the main protagonist to a video game franchise. If you're gonna be a hero, do something heroic. Not just give us an empty statement. To add to this show's unoriginality, we give the characters a nephew and a niece who are mischievous and always trying to push his buttons, and in no way, shape, or form resemble those other mischievous and button-pushing nephews to Donald Duck. Now that would have been insane, right? I didn't even mention that every time Bubsy makes a convincing argument, they play footage from old black and white movies for some reason. I guess it's the juxtaposition that's supposed to create humor, however, it's not really needed. If there was a show like SpongeBob or Flapjack where showing something in another medium would make it funny, it would work. But here it feels like the animators needed to bust out extra time to fill their half-an-hour pilot. Who was making this? The guys behind Wacky Deli? It doesn't help that there are things that just happen for the sake of happening without any rhyme or reason. Like when the doctor who invents the device just magically disappears. And I'm not just nitpicking since cartoon logic means no logic, but at least in the Looney Tunes cartoons, there are consequences that make the joke work. Here, it's not building up for a punchline, they just disappear in midair. So what more can I say? It's terribly animated by this era's standards, terribly voiced, terribly written, and overall terribly conceived. No wonder it didn't get picked up for a whole season, because if it did, something possibly could have gone wrong.